Welcome to Pandora's Awareness Podcast, a place where we collect stories and circulate life-changing wisdom. I'm your host, Asher, and our co-host today is Queen Lav, and we have two awesome, amazing, incredible, fantastic women today. We got Wandana, and we also got Eva. And we're gonna talk about first-time experiences. And we all got those. Everybody got some awesome first-time experiences, some not so awesome first-time experiences. And we're gonna talk about those. That's the theme of the day today is on first-time experiences. And I'm gonna start off with I'm gonna use my hand sign. Wandana, she's gonna she's gonna tell us a little bit about what she specializes in, how she adding value to the world, who she being a hero to, and then we're gonna jump into Eva, and we're gonna talk about the first-time experiences. Over to you, Wandana.
Okay, so thank you, Asher and Lavinia, for having me join the podcast today. I am a marketer and strategist and innovator by profession. So I did the corporate thing and then I went into consulting, freelancing, and I did that for about 20, 25 years. So lots of experience in that realm, building brands, building businesses, 100% success rate. And it was all going great, except I got really bored, and I tend to get bored really quickly. So I decided I got to rethink this, and I also wasn't building equity in anything, so there was nothing that I could pick up and sell at the end of the day.
Mm,
And after realizing that, I decided, based on my curiosity, what am I really curious about? And the reason I chose curiosity, excuse me, is because when you're curious, you never get bored.
mm,
Whatever you're curious about, it always holds your interest. So I thought, okay, what am I really curious about? And what I decided to do was build a multiple, an, multiple streams of passive, semi-passive income that's sustainable over time. And the way I'm doing it is in three ways. One is with products and brands and building brands. The second is publishing, and the third is programs. So programs for I'll get to the audience in a minute, but also a lot of speaking. And just as I was making all these changes, I had the opportunity to participate in an anthology, which eventually became a Wall Street Journal and USA Today bestseller. And then I had the opportunity to speak at a number of different venues, including Harvard and Stanford and Cambridge and Oxford. And I speak about curiosity
mm.
and creative problem solving. So it kind of all sort of flowed together. I'm also writing a book right now. Just gave a TED talk, and I'll talk a little bit more about that a bit later. But I'm very particular about what I teach because through all of my working world, I got really tired of the human capacity to brilliantly solve the wrong problems. and and so I'm on a quest to change that. And I very much want to teach us as a universe to be better, smarter thinkers and to make wise decisions swiftly. So that's kind of my goal. I there's a few things that are happening. I'm of course I'm doing a lot of speaking and writing, but my next book will hopefully come out soon, and it will come out soon. And the other thing that I'm doing is I'm uh, I'm not only am I coaching people one on one how to grow their businesses, but but I'm launching a posse of bad bitches doing great work. and, and, and that's coming up October 3rd. So it's a very collaborative way for women to build their businesses, but also build themselves and help each other doing so. So that's kind of the spiel from me.
Mm. Wow, I'm already blown away by that. I mean, I'm inspired so far. But thank you for sharing that, Wandana. And I would ask Eva if she don't mind sharing a bit about herself, what she specializes in, who she's been a hero to, or she's adding value to the world, and we can get in conversation even further.
Yeah, so hi everyone. So good to be here. So I'm a menstrual educator, so I teach all about the menstrual cycle and counselor, so I also work one-on-one. And I teach a natural fertility method, which is called the symptothermal method. I don't know if anyone has heard about it, but it's on the family of the fertility awareness methods, natural family planning, as some people call it. And it's basically a way to know your body and your cycle and figure out your exact fertile window. And then from there, make decisions about your fertile day. So it's either you want to look for pregnancy or you want to avoid it. You can use that same method to do both. And it's great because it's natural, you don't have any side effects. So it's for, women that wants to stop taking the pill or using an IUD or whatever. So it's amazing. I love teaching women what I think that should be taught when we're little. And at least for me, it wasn't like that. I got the minimum information about me and my cycle. And I think that's just the base of everything we do in life. Like it's even if you're a man, you're still surrounded by women all the time. So this is something that I like to teach to couples too. If the woman is with someone, this is great information for men as well. And it's just, I feel like with education, that's the best way that you can really change humanity and society. So I'm just trying to do that. And then on the side, I'm also an artist manager. So I do a couple of things in that sense. And I also do production. So I'm a multi-passionate person. And then before that, I worked in marketing also for a long time. So yeah, that's me.
I love. So it's like you're curious in so many fields, and I feel like a lot of us are.
Oh yeah.
Women of many hats. Well, that's super exciting to hear about what you both do. And Eva, I think what you do is great. And it's funny because I just joined a women entrepreneurs group, and we were just talking about how important it is to know where you are in your cycle, which I honestly had zero education in that thing, right? And I wasn't aware of the fact that I have days when I shouldn't fast, because in those days I should eat carbs. And I'm a person who embraced keto diet a long time ago, so I stayed away from carbs. But now I know that a week before my cycle, I can actually indulge in carbs because it helps with the production of progesterone and other hormones that we need. I didn't know that we have certain days where we are more energetic and we have more productive. And I didn't know that it's normal in that month to have some days when we are actually low, kind of sort of depressed and not very active. And I think once we are aware that our life is a cycle, each month we go through these phases, then we are not so harsh on ourselves in the days when we are not so productive.
Exactly. You just said it all. I can't say anything else after
that. I think we're gonna start right here because I'm gonna be the man on this thing. I'm gonna ask this question. You guys are like, Ashley, why did you ask that question? but I know it was a first time experience for all of you guys. And since you guys are talking about menstrual, fertility, all that stuff, when was the first time? What age was your first cycle? If you guys just want to share those, since you guys talk.
Yeah, so maybe I can start.
Yeah, you can start there.
So my experience was actually very interesting, and I think now that I look back, like at the moment, I didn't know that was going to be like a big part of my life. It was just a thing that happened, like everybody has it. It's called a menarche. So when you get your period for the first time. But then now, what I'm doing now, and I look back at that moment, and I'm like, of course. So it was when I was 13. So it's like a very average age. But then when I was little, my mom used to work a lot. So she would travel to Latin America. I'm from Mexico, so we were living there. And the day that I got my period, my mom wasn't home. So she was traveling. She was in Argentina or something like that. So for me as a little girl, I was like I knew what it was with very, basic information, and I knew it was gonna eventually happen, but I just didn't know what to do. Like I just knew I needed a pad, that was it. And my dad was home. So I had to tell my dad for the first, I have an amazing relationship with my dad since I was little, but and he's like an amazing man and super great dad. But it's still the natural thing is to go to your mom, like it's just the natural thing. So I was like, okay, I guess I'll just tell my dad. So I told my dad, and he was like very surprised. and shocked, but he was like super nice about it, like didn't freak out or anything. He was like, okay, I'll go to the pharmacy and get you some pads and I'll make you some tea. And that was it. And then we called my mom and she felt so guilty because she wasn't there with me, to just to be with me. And to this day, I talk to my mom and she's like, oh my God, like I regret it so much that I went to that trip and I wasn't with you and this like such an important, thing in life. So now I think that's part of my work now that I want to involve men so much. Because my dad was there, at that time. And I saw how natural he took it. And I don't know, there are some men that don't like to speak about these things, and there's a lot of taboo and stigma around it. But I think it's very important for men to also be involved, even and if you have a daughter, or if you have, a niece or whatever, like men should talk about it too. It's just natural and it's part of life. So that was my first time getting my period.
I love it. I love it. I think men should be educated in this perspective because, as you said, like you're a father, it happens that you're the only one around. Now, what you do? How will that conversation be? And on the other side, if you're in a relationship, because I started saying how the production of hormones and our cycle influences us. You will understand your partner better. You will understand why, I don't know, a week or so, she's more emotional and she starts crying for a reason and she's acting out of character.
I think we could avoid wars, to be honest, if more people knew about the cycle.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts, Wandana?
I feel like I've got a story for everything. Honestly, this is like I had totally like forgotten about this. Thank you for reminding me, Asher. So I grew up very independent and very adventurous. And when I was 11, we lived in Colorado at the time, and I flew from there to India by myself. And I really wanted to experience the culture because that's my heritage. And I thought, like, yeah, I just want to go live there and go to school there and stuff. Quite a story. But I went there and I was like, okay, no problem. I'm gonna, just attack it. And I was living with my grandparents. But before I left, my mom gave me this little package. And my mom was an OBGYN. She's passed away now, but she was an OBGYN, and she gave me a little pad, gave me a little packet with a pad in it and said, listen, if for whatever reason this happens, you use this. And so I said, okay, it was no big deal. So I fly over to India. And one day when I'm biking home from school, I used to bike 3 miles uphill and then of course on the way back too. And I'm like, something feels different. So I parked the bike in my grandparents' yard and I come in and there's like a family gathering.
Oh no.
And I sit on the stairs with my short skirt and giving everybody a show. Let's just put it that way. So I had completely leaked. And I was like, oh my God. So a couple of my aunts who they pulled me into the bathroom and they said, okay, no, are you okay? Like, this is what's happening, so on and so forth. So got cleaned up and that was all good. And, that was my first experience, but wouldn't you know it, it happens again the next month. Nobody told me that. So I'm like, oh my God, it's going to happen like every month. This is brutal. This is like the worst thing ever. So I was 11 and a half, and that was my first experience. Like, it was crazy. And to not have your mom there, I know exactly what you mean, Eva, when you say, you just want your mom.
Literally.
And I have to tell you, being adventurous and being independent can be really dumb sometimes, because I think I've had everything happen to me, like when it should happen. So I'm like, I've had every injury possible. I've got stories for everything, I swear.
But you have a rich life now that you can.
I have a rich life.
Wow.
Yes, I have. That's a good word, rich. I have a rich life.
Yeah. it's funny that the three of us have somewhat similar experience. Like my mom wasn't around. I was at my grandparents'
Oh,
for
wow.
the summer vacation, I think. And I kind of knew what was happening. I was kind of embarrassed to share it with my grandparents and grandma. And now I think about it, it's stupid, but I wanted my mom. So I went through the whole thing by myself. I managed, and nobody knew. And I don't know, 3 weeks later, my mom came to visit us and I told her what happened, and she was very impressed that I managed it by myself, and I guess was also very curious why I didn't share with my grandma, which I don't have an answer for it. I felt embarrassed. and yeah, that was the story. Yeah, it's good
Very
to have
similar.
mom around.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, I would like to tell you about my first time, but I never had one. So I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. But okay, let's go.
Never say never, Asher. You never know.
Man, listen. You guys are blessed with that gift because you guys get to deliver that special gift that the earth, the planet needs. So you guys are blessed with that one. Okay, so I'm gonna jump into Wandana.
Wandana.
Wandana. Oh my God. I'm getting close. I get the NA right?
Yeah.
Any of your first time experience you want to share with us that the world needs to have a conversation with?
Well, I went through a big first time experience recently.
Oh, tell us about that one then.
Which I know, Asher, you know a little bit about.
Mhm.
So middle of last year, I got diagnosed with breast cancer. And it's very unusual because my cousin had been diagnosed the year before. And we grew up with nobody in our family anywhere having any kind of cancer. And then back to back, the two of us. And this is, speaking from India, even like, over the ages. And the only difference is that she and I both grew up in North America.
Mm.
And it's apparently, I was talking to a relative who's a pathologist, and she was saying that the incidence of breast cancer is actually really much greater in the northeast part of the US. So I kind of put Toronto in that, that whole area too. So it's just something to think about. I really do believe our bodies are fighting a chemical war. And I could go on and on about that, but I won't. But what I was going to tell you about is what happened as part of my breast cancer experience. So a couple of things. First of all, when I had my surgery, and this is while I'm like traveling all over the world, like, and speaking. Like, I'm trying to juggle, breast cancer and speaking. And so I came back to have the surgery, and honestly, it was like going through a drive-through. So
Wow.
like, I never ever saw a bed in the hospital until I was in recovery. So I went in, checked in that morning, got to the radiology department. They had to do a couple of things. Got to nuclear medicine. They had to do a couple of things. And then I had to go into a holding tank where there were just 4, kind of recliners. And me and my husband just hung out there until I was called. And then when it was my turn, I actually picked up my IV bag and walked into the OR and jumped on the table. And I said, as soon as they did that, I love general anesthesia, by the way. It's so awesome. So I was telling them, I said, you know what? Oh my God, hit me. Like, I was so ready. I was just so ready. And I came out and I went home that day, and life was good. And, I thought, okay, this is my first experience with breast cancer. It's like, okay, I can do this. And I've always been really positive, really strong. And then it came to chemo. So chemo was an interesting experience, was debating whether to do it or not. And there's very specific reasons why I did it. But the most important one being, I never want to have any regrets that I didn't give it my all.
Mm.
So I have to catch my breath every now and then. What happened was, after my last chemo treatment, which was on February 2nd, I thought, okay, I made it. I made it through all my chemo treatments. But over time, I was getting more and more breathless. And I lost about 20 pounds very, very quickly. I had others, a number of different side effects. And on that day, on Valentine's Day, I woke up and I have a cracked tooth, so I was in a lot of pain. So I thought, okay, clearly it's an infection, and that means I'm going to get a fever. So fever and chemo don't go together. Yeah, you got to get to the ER. So we went to the ER, and 7 hours later, I was seen. I couldn't even walk like 2 steps without like huffing and puffing and nearly falling over. And I told them I needed oxygen, and I think I have an infection. So the head of the department saw me, and there were no beds or anything around at the time that, because, they see so many people, and not everybody needs a bed always. But as soon as he heard what was happening, like faster than grease lightning, man. I saw the bed coming in, and all of a sudden it was like they were doing all my vitals. They were putting IVs in me. They were, checking on my breathing. They were putting oxygen on me. Like it was so fast. I was like, what the heck just happened? It was out of nowhere. And the last thing they did was put a gas mask on me, like an oxygen mask, but it was so tight that I felt like I couldn't breathe. And that freaked me out. So I lashed out, like in the sense, like I had to get it off of me. And after that, I remember nothing. Totally blank. So I was admitted. I had lots of people coming to visit me, including families, like family friends. Don't remember anything. Don't remember people being there. Don't remember giving my consent to anything. Don't remember talking to doctors. Nothing. I remember absolutely. Don't remember eating. Nothing. And then I started to get worse. And so they decided they have to go invasive. So I was taken to ICU, and I went into a coma. And I was intubated, put on a ventilator. They did, I don't know, maybe 50 tests. I don't even know. And it's funny because it's almost not my story to tell, because my husband was the guy who was there and who lived it. And, he was my voice. He was my advocate. Just an incredible human being. And I was like that for 2 weeks. And I ended up with a pretty serious condition called ARDS, which is acute respiratory distress syndrome. And it doesn't have a very favorable survival rate. So, me and my 3 kids and my husband, like those were the only people that were allowed in ICU. And it was amazing because all of them came and they just sat with me, morning until night. And then overnight they went home to sleep. And then eventually all of my tests were coming back negative, meaning, I didn't have an infection. And it turns out that I had a very severe, very rare reaction to one of my chemo drugs. So rare that I don't even know if anybody even knows about it until I might be the, case number 1, of course. And even my oncologist she was almost in tears. She was traveling. My GP was traveling. They came back. They were like, just everybody was stunned. And then afterwards, after I came to, we weren't sure you were going to make it. That I kept hearing that. But I have to tell you, the other first experience that I have as part of this whole thing, I was on the most fantastic trip. Like, honestly, I loved being in a coma.
Oh my God, Wandana, thank you for sharing this with us. That was my follow-up question. What do you remember? What happened? What happened?
I remember so much, and it affected me in terms of, Asher, you talked about what can we learn from this, and it's actually part of my TEDx talk. And I remember flying through the air like Superman. I was like traversing galaxies and dimensions and realms, and I was like, wow, this is so fantastic. It was, honestly, I was like, and I ended up in places that I didn't even know existed, people that I didn't know. Like, it was just so ridiculously fantastical. Like, but the weird thing is everywhere I went, the message was about thinking big. Think big, think big, think big. The other thing is that it also was about just one-to-one relationships. So I never met more than 2 people or saw 2 people interacting at a time. in terms of them actually interacting, not just being present, but interacting. And it really highlighted to me that just as the brain cannot multitask, I really don't think that we can multi converse at the same, or multi relationship. I don't know what the right word is. I haven't quite figured out that yet, but I just think that when we're talking to someone, we are talking to one person at a time, and we have to be completely focused on that person. And that's typically the way I am, but it just got reinforced over and over again.
So are we doing it wrong?
Yeah, think about it. The four of us here.
No, but when
No,
I'm talking on this call, I will focus on one of you at a time. And, you know, I can't, like, it's not possible to look at three people at the same time. You know, your eyes shift around, right? So similarly, when people think they're multitasking, all they're doing is shifting back and forth really fast. And actually, when you're multitasking it actually slows you down, because you could go a lot faster if you were just very focused. And that's the way I've always conducted my relationships. Like, if I'm talking to you, it'll be only to you, and nothing else will get in the way. I'm 150% there. So that was a big lesson. The other lesson for me was I tend to be a giver, and I give to the point where it's not healthy for me. And so for me, it was realizing that I have to put me first. So everything now is about me first. And that doesn't mean I'm mean to people, or I turn people down. And if people need my help, I feed off of positive energy, and I will avoid negative energy. So it's real. It's just taking care of yourself first. And one of the other things that I learned was, you know, people often ask me, do you believe that everything happens for a reason? And I don't. Doesn't mean I think the opposite is true, but I really do believe that whatever does happen, make sure it has a purpose. Otherwise, it would have happened in vain. And that would be really tragic. So we can't, we can't always control what happens to us, right? But we can make sure it has a purpose. And I think that's sort of a beautiful way to think. So for me, I have become very deliberate, is my word. So the two words, my two big words, are curiosity and being deliberate. And you know how people say that, what are your, big words, or what are your big words for the year? Mine, I don't expect mine to change. It's not a year thing. So there you have it. That's quite a story.
You think back, like having a more of a big picture vision of your life, and you don't get consumed with pettiness like the rest of us?
Yeah, I think that's almost a maturity thing in a way, right? Like we can let things really drag us down. But I have to tell you, since I've been living in this realm of curiosity, since I, shifted my mindset, nothing bothers me. It's very strange. It's been like a complete release, because when you're curious, you're in an active versus passive state. You don't judge anything. You you actually, it's like childlike wonder, or like Einstein, where you're just trying to discover stuff. And I've actually built a success model around it, which is self-propagating and cyclical and continuous. So you can be successful at all times. People don't realize that. But to me, the whole curiosity thing has really liberated me. And it's actually a very powerful tool. It's a strategic tool. It really, it completely changes. Like, if you and I are having an argument or a discussion and I disagree with you completely, I'm not going to get angry. I'm not going to get mad. I'm just going to ask you. It's like, you know what? That's really interesting. I never thought of it that way. Why do you say that? And it completely changes the path of the conversation, just as an example. And because I approach everything with curiosity, I never go in thinking that, oh my God, this is going to be so boring. God help me. And I know I've done that a lot. We've all done that a lot. Like, even lectures in university or whatever. It's like, oh my God, I don't want to go to this one. But if you just approach things with curiosity, I think it changes your life completely. That's been my experience anyway. And that's what I teach about. So
I love
Story
this.
of my life. Sorry, Asher. Go ahead.
What? Wandana You sound like you went to another place and got a new assignment, came back with it, and it's a big one with massive purpose, and you're just on it. So I love that, by the way. And
Thank you.
if I can contribute to this massive goal or dream that you got assigned to do, I'm ready to be part of it.
All
And
right.
I was wondering, I was curious about Eva when you listen to her Wandana's story.
Wandana.
Wandana. You listen to her story. When you listen to her story, what's showing up for you, Eva?
I mean, I thought so many things while I was listening to her. First of all, I'm glad you're here with us after all you went through.
Thank you. Thank you.
And I feel you. I mean, my mom just went through that last year. So she got breast cancer. Fortunately, she's okay now, and she went through all the stuff too. But yeah, I feel like it's just something that's so common that it shouldn't be, and it's just everywhere. Like probably everybody knows at least a person that had it, has it, will have it. And then when you mentioned about the differences that it was you and your cousin, was it right?
Yeah.
That you got it because you lived in the US and that was a common factor. I'm also I study Ayurveda a lot, which is from India.
Yes.
And I love it because it's, you know, you learn about the elements and the food and like it's just such an old way of living. And it's from India, so it makes total sense to me that you're saying that, because we're just here, at least we're just not connected to anything, like to the way we eat, to the way we work, and that goes back to the cycle that we don't know anything about it, and hormones and how to prevent this kind of thing before, you know, it gets bad. And then from your experience in a coma and the anesthesia that also made me laugh because I got my wisdom teeth removed, and that was I probably share that one of my first times. First and last time I got general anesthesia, and it was so funny because I love metal, like metal music and rock, and so the doctor was like, "What do you want to listen to when you?" Because he asked me like, "Do you want general anesthesia or just like local?" I'm like, "No, general. I don't want to feel anything or see anything or hear anything." He's like, "Okay." So he's like, "What do you want to listen to before you go to sleep?" And I'm like, "Metallica." And he's like, "What? Why would you like to listen to Metallica? When you like, are you sure? Do you want something, you know, chill, like calmer?" I'm like, "No, Metallica." So he played Metallica, and I went to sleep. And I loved it too. Like I just remember it was so fun. And then I woke up crying, and my mom was like, "What's going on? Like, what happened? Does it hurt? Like, what's wrong?" I'm like, "I don't know." I just woke up crying out of nowhere. That's just a funny story. But yeah, I mean, all of that was going through my mind while I was listening to you. And I totally agree and resonate with what you said just last. The way you take things, it just changes everything. Because everybody's a mirror, you know, and we're here to mirror each other. And if you take something, if you react to people without even thinking, that's when problems arise, you know. But if you really take it as a mirror, it's like if I see something in you that I don't like, it's probably because I have it myself and I just hadn't noticed, you know. So that's really nice, and I'm glad you took it that way and that you made it had a purpose. And now you're like sharing your story. It's just very brave of you because not everybody does that, and it's not easy to rise again after something like that. So I'm very happy for you and proud of you, and thank you for sharing.
Thank you. I just came out in April. So
Wow.
Asher saw me, you know, a few weeks ago when I was much worse, even my voice. So it's nice to be back. It's nice to be
Voice is
here.
very powerful right now. I'm like, she's
Yeah.
back. She's back.
Yeah, welcome back.
Thank you. I tell you, everything happens to me. Everything. Like, who the heck do you know that's in a coma?
Stop saying
Like-
that. You say that, you call everything into existence.
I know.
She's a writer and a storyteller. We need stories and we need stuff to write about and talk about. They gotta happen.
Oh, you just come to me, baby. Like I got so many stories for you. Like, and
You're
that's
way
what everybody
too
says.
curious.
Yeah,
That's why
that's
everything
part of the
happens.
problem, right?
Well, I take that back. You know, I guess some people, they should say this if they have the power, the courage to to experience all these things that the universe is throwing at them. And it seems like you have it all. So go for it.
That's one way to look at it for sure. Let me wish more on myself.
When you was talking about the dimension that you was visiting while you was in coma, and the only thing I could think of, because I'm sure you're familiar with the term astral travel, right?
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of that used to happen to me when I was a kid. I mean, even my adult years too. And I was trying to find a way to get away from it. And I did a couple of things. I won't get into that story because we don't have enough time for it. But when you was talking about your traveling, I was like, oh my God, what was that like? Because there's visiting, there's being there in that space. Because like, what's happening? You're still existing. Like, where were you existing? And you were saying you was just going places in your mind. That's
And I can still feel the wind on my face. Like it's very real to me still. And I mean, in all the places that I went and all the things that happened, and I mean, it's a conversation for another day, but it's still very real, and I feel like I'm still living it.
It's amazing that you remember it, because some people don't. It's like you
you're
have
right,
that awareness
right.
to even remember it so well.
But I'm telling you, I loved it. It was like,
so this is first thing that you wouldn't go back and change, huh?
Would I go back and change it? Well, the part that I would change is the anguish and the agony that it caused my family and friends. I had people, so the most amazing thing that happened was, well, one of the most amazing things is a friend of mine said that, your husband was working on the outside while you were working on the inside. And of all the friends and family, the love and the positive energy and the prayer that everybody sent from all corners of the world, it felt like the binding that held us together, the outside and the inside, and sort of carried us through. So it's a really beautiful feeling that way. I've had people, first of all, so many people, I didn't even realize, you don't realize how much you mean to people until something like this happens. And when you fall off the face of the earth, and people were crying and they were happy, like they would see me. I had somebody coming to visit me every single day without fail. And they would cry just with emotion. That's like, oh my God, I can actually hug you. Oh my gosh, like just like disbelief that I could, that I'm here, that there was a chance that I may not be here. I've had people write songs for me. I've had people sing for me. I've had poetry. I've had books. I've had people give me gifts. And people, still ask me like, what can I get you? What can I get you? And I always tell them a puppy, but nobody's done that yet. So I'm really waiting for that. But I said, or cash. Cash is good too. But, yeah. So somebody got me a stuffed animal, a stuffed toy puppy, massive, named Cash. So I got a puppy and I got Cash. Yeah. But it was really, that was an incredible experience to go through, and I'm still going through it. So yeah, I'm just so grateful. I'm just so grateful. Honestly, I'm grateful to be on this podcast. I'm grateful to, be here today. I'm grateful that I'm going out for dinner with a friend. I'm grateful that I'm building this posse, of bad bitches doing great work. That one. I'm grateful that I get to finish my book.
Anything, like nothing can stop you now. You went through everything. Like, what else? What
yeah,
else?
I'm afraid. I'm actually afraid to say that because oh my God, I don't know if I can handle anything else. But I know I'll get something else. I know something else will happen because that's just who I am, and I can't.
But, yeah, but it's cool that you embrace that.
Yeah.
And somehow this is life, right? We always get something in the road.
Yeah.
To challenge us to go around it or jump over it or just get stuck and cry.
But don't you think that makes life exciting? Like, I think that makes, like, the fact that
Yeah.
you don't know and the challenges and like, it's like the thrill of victory and the agony of defeat, right? It's,
Yeah.
it's like you're playing like this incredible game. You know, sometimes it's chess, sometimes it's downhill slalom skiing, and sometimes it's, you know, ice dancing. Like, it's just like, it's just so remarkable. Life is so remarkable. And
Here-
we're here
here-
for a short time.
Here's a thought.
Hmm.
I was sharing it with I think my last guest I had on the podcast. She was from India too, by the way. And we was talking about comfort zone. And I was thinking about this idea that we're always operating our comfort zone unless there's an accident. So if you think about it, so by choice, if we had to choose the next step, we're gonna choose the next comfortable step, right? If we got to hold on to something, we're gonna hold on to the most comfortable spot to hold on to. So we're always in that comfortable bubble, unless there's an accident that throws into something like, oh my God, I wouldn't choose this though. But now I'm in it. What's my next move? And the next move often is the next most comfortable step I can take from out of it. So I feel like we always operate within our comfort zone. We just expand it, keep expanding it by the next choice we make. And the next choice we often make is something more comfortable to us. So if we had to choose between the extreme or the most comfortable, we're gonna pick the most comfortable versus the extreme. Unless we have an accident that put us in a situation like, oh my God, I would never choose this one.
I would just change that, Asher, to say unless we have some sort of a trigger, unless we have some sort of a stimulant. You know, I don't mean like drug. I mean like, you know, like something that's nudging us to do something, like a challenge of some sort. And the only reason I say that is because of the fact that I live in curiosity. You know, I tend to think that what's the worst thing that'll happen? Or how are you going to know if you're good enough if you don't put yourself out there and test it? You know, I tend to think more like that, but I completely hear what you're saying, that unless there's like this push that we have that causes us to do something, sometimes, you know, we're stuck in inertia. And you know, we try to be as stable as we can, right? As peaceful as we can. That's human nature.
Yes.
Until that feels uncomfortable and you have to try something else.
You're right. Yeah.
But you're gonna reach for the most comfortable spot first.
For a period of time.
Yeah.
Because the brain likes stability and knowing what's going to happen. So it'll never choose uncertainty.
You know what, though? That's not where it'll gravitate to. But I will tell you, having studied the brain, and I work with restless outliers, is the way I call it. So people who are nonconformists, you know, they're curious, they're creative, they're builders, they're passionate, they're not necessarily extroverts, but they have a distaste for the status quo. They, you know, they like puzzles, they're progressive, all of that. And the amazing thing is the brain's ability to form new connections. Like, it actually can remold itself and change itself with neuroplasticity. And I actually think if you give yourself a chance to let the brain form those connections, it will happily do it. It's not even happily. It just happens. It's just and it's the change is amazing to see in people. To see how it manifests itself. I don't know if you guys have ever read this, but when they sliced this sounds terrible, when they sliced Einstein's brain, they people would think that there's quadrants of the brain that would do certain things, and with his brain, everything was intermingled.
Oh, wow.
So yeah, so it's kind of a cool thing that, you know, like there's a lot of connections that can happen. I love a lot of Einstein stories, so.
How about you? Thank you very much for sharing this with us, Vandana. And yeah, we appreciate you giving us your time to be here, because knowing that you went through what you went, I'm sure that your time feels very precious. So thank you for being here.
Thank you.
And how about you, Eva? What first time would you like to share with us?
Oh my God, it just got so deep that I'm just like reflecting on everything she said. Um, what other first time? I have a funny one. Maybe we can get out of the so
Yeah,
serious
Sure.
stuff.
and be
But
funny.
so the first time I moved to the US, I was 16. And I moved to a suburb near Chicago, so Schaumburg, like 40 minutes away from Chicago. And so I went to school. It was all new for me. I mean, I knew English, but it was not as great. And then, first time I was a junior, everybody knew each other. I didn't have any friends. I didn't know anyone. New system, new life, everything. So first day I went it was like a study hall kind of thing. And there was this emergency door, but I didn't see there was a sign that said like do not open, like an alarm will sound. I didn't see that. And I went through that. So of course, you know what happened. And it was like my first day. So oh my God, it was so bad. Like first time in a different country, first day of school, and that happened. I felt, oh my God, I didn't know where to hide. Like I just wanted to run and cry. I don't know. It's horrible. And then like everybody was like looking at me because it was like a silent hall. So everybody was just looking at me like, didn't you read the sign? I'm like, that was horrible. Yeah.
Wait a
How
minute.
old were you?
What was
How
the
old were
age?
you?
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
I'm curious too.
16.
16,
Yeah,
16.
I was 16. Yeah,
16.
16.
Oh my God. You must have been mortified.
Horrible. Like to
Yeah.
this day, I think I still have PTSD for that experience. Like it's just I wouldn't wish this on my worst enemy. Like horrible. Yeah. So first day of school in a
I do
different
have a
country.
fun experience like this when I started flying as a flight attendant on my first flight ever. I was having my nice uniform. We finished doing the service and everything. I did pretty well. My coworkers were encouraging me. Obviously, I was stressed and, it was my first time. And then one of them offered me coffee and I stood up from the jump seat. And it's not called a jump seat for nothing, right? It jumps up. I took the coffee and I sat right back down. And guess what? I was on the floor, coffee on me, my legs in the air with my
Oh my God.
coworkers. I was in the back galley, luckily, so the only ones that saw me were my coworkers. Yeah. I laughed at it. We all laughed at it. I was slightly embarrassed, but I just turned it into, okay, something funny because it is what it is. I was already 25, so I guess by that time I had my fair share of embarrassment and just
Yeah.
laughing at it myself. So then it feels normal. Luckily, I had a spare uniform to change and everything was fine. But yeah, I guess embarrassing moments like this are super funny later, right? When we think
Super
about
funny later. That's
Yeah.
that's the thing about it. Just like Wandana.
it. Yeah.
Wandana. Just like
Maybe
Wandana.
you'll be able to share the first time you said Wandana's name correctly one day.
Yeah.
Just like she was joking about her coma coming out and flying around in there. I mean, it's awesome. But it's been an incredible conversation, by the way. And I really appreciate both you for coming on here, blessing us with the generosity of your time and sharing your story. And before we shut down the conversation, I would definitely want to go around the room and just find out, like, start with you, Eva. Before I go there, actually, what's the best way for people to find you?
What's the best word?
For people to contact you, to find you, to locate you.
Oh, yeah. So my website is havafem.com. So HAVVAFEM, havafem.com. And all social media, same thing, havafem.
Perfect. What about you, Wandana?
For me, it's probably LinkedIn or Instagram. And my LinkedIn profile is my first and last name, which is Vandana Puranik. And I'm assuming that's going to be in the notes somewhere. And the other way is Instagram under Active Ingredients, because my company is Active Ingredients, but somebody already took that name. So I had to abbreviate it. So it's ACTIVEINGREDS on Instagram. Those are probably the best two ways right now.
Okay. And we just lost Lab, by the way. And what is your biggest takeaway from this conversation? They Wandana.
Biggest takeaway.
Mm-hmm.
I think the biggest takeaway is it's important to share our stories because they can be impactful for someone else. And the other thing that I would say is I live in humor as well. So
I can tell.
I always want to be in that frame of mind. So I think, we had a great conversation and shared a lot. We laughed a lot. And I loved hearing, each of the stories that happened.
What about you, Eva? Your biggest takeaway?
Biggest takeaway, just enjoy life and to get out of your comfort zone. And that sometimes we just get so invested in what we're doing or what we want to achieve, and we don't look around and see that there's a whole world with like different people and different experiences, and there's so much to learn. And yeah, like I never imagined I would listen to the story today, like I just came with no expectations, and it's like this happened, and I'll probably think about it for the rest of the afternoon. So it's just, yeah, like just get out of your comfort zone, go explore, be curious, even if it's not all the time. Just, yeah, like see the world with tourist eyes. I think that's my favorite life motto. Wherever you are,
see the
just be a
world with
tourist all
I
the
like
time.
that. I like that a
I'm
lot.
writing that down right now.
Yeah, that's what I mean, I always say it, but I'm taking it away today too, in this sense. So yeah.
And closing question, starting with you, Eva. What is that one thing or two thing when people do it drives you crazy, if you don't mind sharing?
I think one is when they chew really loud. I can't. When they chew loud or they have gum and they like open their mouth, I can't. And the other, yeah, I don't know. And the other that I can't stand when I see someone throwing garbage in the street, that it just really I can't. Like I've done
Or like
the
cigarettes.
worst things that it's like I had actually stopped my car and I went down and be like, what are you doing? Like I don't do that anymore. I try not to do that, but it just gets me so mad. It's like, wow.
It's I feel like that when people are throwing cigarettes out their car, drives me bananas. Like, why would you do that? This is like the earth is for like everyone, man. Like,
yeah,
I know, but not even like, but like, because cigarettes, like, it's wrong, but I get it. It's like it's lighten up. Like, why do you? If you're driving, you can't. Like, I get it. I don't agree with that. But then when it's like a water bottle, can you just save it so you get home? Like that's not on fire. Nothing's gonna happen if you leave your bottle in your car. Like why would you throw a water bottle out of the window? Like it's just I've seen that. But yeah, those two things.
Same question for you, Wandana.
So I took it a little bit differently, not so much habit. Well, I guess these are habits. They can be. So three things. The first is it really bothers me when people play the victim. Bad things happen to everybody. And the second thing I would say as part of that is, one life is not easier or harder than the other one. I might have gone through what I went through, but everybody's got something. And it's our capacity in terms of how to handle it that really matters. So, for what I went through, for somebody else, it might have been devastating. For me, it was like, all right, well, we move forward, progress as much as we can. The third thing I would say is I can't stand lying. So just, whatever it is, just deal with it, be honest. And believe it or not, you can be honest and you can be nice. And just be, forthcoming with what it is that you want to say. And it becomes harder and harder to cover up lies. It's just easier to tell the truth.
Wow. And I
What's
gotta say,
yours?
my biggest takeaway. Well, first thing I wrote down right here was see the world with tourist eyes. I'm stealing that one, Eva. I'm taking that one with me.
I love
Yeah.
it. Love it.
And the other part was for Wandana, it's like when you was talking about your journey back into your coma and coming back out with this massive mission, this awesome purpose, this big goal that you're going to accomplish. That's one of my big, I'm like, okay, so I'm thinking about it and I'm like, okay, sometimes we're put into places and then we got to return back with a message. And sometimes that message is so great, that's a reminder. So I felt like you was reminded of your true purpose when you get that break, that 2-week
Mhm.
break,
Mhm.
to go visit the messenger or the message, right? And come back. So that's one of my biggest takeaways so far. Yeah.
And what are the two things or one or two things that drive you crazy when people
Oh my God. That question comes back to me. But it's the same one for most people. And I was guilty of this. But then I got better at it. But it's like when I'm explaining something and somebody don't let me finish what I'm saying, and it start talking, say like they already know what I'm saying. Like, wait a minute, I haven't finished my point. So how can you tell where I'm going with this thing? And sometimes that drives me crazy because then they start saying things, assuming things. I'm like, oh, that's not what I really meant. Then we get an argument, right? So I'm like, okay, so when I'm expressing something, I would rather me finish my point than the person say what they gotta say. Same thing for what I do for other people. I let them finish their point. I will listen. And once they finish, then I ask my question. Whatever shows up, shows up. But I know I was guilty of this back in the day because when something pops in my mind, I want to speak right away because I'm like, I'm not gonna forget. But let me say it right away. And sometimes that does create problems, create confusion. So that was one of the things that drive me crazy.
That's a really good one, actually.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And people
Yeah,
interrupt
I
all the
relate.
time.
Yeah. Especially kids.
Yeah.
Yeah. Especially kids. Wow. I think you know what I think happened to Lav? I think her battery died on her. Because she would have texted me already. So I think her battery died. She probably gotta charge it up.
Yeah,
Mm.
probably.
Yeah. But I do appreciate you both for hopping on here and chatting with us today. I really enjoyed this conversation. This was very powerful. And
It was
nice
great.
to meet you,
A
Eva,
lot of
and it's good to
fun.
see you again. Wandana, good to see you. Very good to see you again. And
Thank you
before
for
we shut
having
down,
us.
yeah, any last word before we shut down?
Just thank you.
Mm,
Thank you for having us. I'm grateful for being able to be here and share and learn and grow.
yes.
Yeah, same. Thank you. And I don't believe in coincidences. I think it's all synchronicity, and we all had to be here today. So yeah, happy to be here. And yeah, whoever has any questions about the menstrual cycle, don't hesitate to,
There
or
we go.
fertility, don't hesitate to reach out. I think you're gonna put my website also on the notes.
Yes, yes, I
I'm
will.
available in English and Spanish.
Uh-huh. Same to
Awesome.
you. Any last thing for you? Any giveaway, Wandana?
Um, uh, I I can put a giveaway in the it's a link. So but I'm certainly you can find me on LinkedIn and Instagram, but I also have a page that I put together about sort of 7 of the most um underutilized creative problem solving
Mm-hmm.
um parts
Mm-hmm.
or tactics.
Questions? Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So I'm happy to share that as well.
Oh, perfect. All right, folks, if you're watching us right now, and you're catching this on live, let's go ahead and put hashtag alive in the chat, in the comment section. And if you're catching this on replay, go ahead and put hashtag replay in the comment section in the chat. So let us know you're watching, to listen to us. And with that, make it an awesome day.